Love that. Good evening. Welcome to 5 Live Cricket. I'm Steve Crossman. We're with you until 10 o'clock. It's our first cricket show since the T20 World Cup got underway. So over the next hour, we'll be live in Australia. We'll be speaking to Geoff Lemon about Australia's, shall we call it, nervy start at the weekend, losing heavily to New Zealand. Shortly, we'll also be joined by two former Ireland players. Ireland, great story, progressing to the Super 12s for only the second time. The coverage of the T20 World Cup is all across the BBC. You can listen to commentaries on Sports Extra. The BBC Sport website has got all the big moments that you can watch there. Delighted to say that with us for the next hour, we've got Phil Tufnell and Michael Carberry. Good evening, chaps.
Evening all.
Good evening.
How are we?
Good evening. Yeah, very good. I've got to say, Phil, Michael looks very, very ready for this. He's got a big book open.
Is that a book or a cushion?
He's got a look at that. It's like it's like John Murray's ledger, Phil.
Preparation
That's what it is.
key, right?
Well, I'm afraid I haven't got one of those.
Have you not? You surprised me.
Well, I have actually. No, I have.
Oh, you have? There you go. You've got a notebook with about 3 words written down, which is probably milk and 2 sugars.
Well, there you go. But listen, I've enjoyed it. I've enjoyed the upsets.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been great. I've been tuning in on. It's not a great time, is it, over there for us back in the UK? So, and with a few other sort of World Cups going on, the rugby league, the women's rugby union as well. We're fighting for eyes on, aren't we? And I've enjoyed it so far, even though it looks a bit cold. Some of those places look a bit chilly. I've been looking at Henry Moran and Alex Hartley down there, and they've had to go out and buy puffer jackets. That's not like Aussie.
Yeah, but that's because Henry Moran's like 11 stone wet through, isn't he? So he always looks like he's shivering. And ever since day one, Michael, ever since Namibia have that shock, beating Sri Lanka, first game of the tournament, it just felt like that set us up for this great sort of fun tournament.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's what the shorter form can do, isn't it? I mean, it kind of brings everyone closer to the pack. Because the game is action filled, anything can happen. I mean, sometimes a game is won and lost, sometime on just one ball, one event, and it's been fantastic. I managed to, as Phil said, due to the hours, not being able to tune in and watch the live games, but certainly the highlights. You sort of watching them back, and you realise that this tournament is just warming up nicely. You still feel there's more to come though.
Personal highlight, Phil?
Well, it had to be yesterday.
Definitely.
Virat Kohli
Absolutely.
in front of 90,000 screaming fans at the G. I mean, that was... I mean, it's a big call, but I think a few people have been saying it. It's got to be one of the best T20s there's been, hasn't there? I mean, it was edgy as stuff, a bit of controversy, no balls wides, last ball, and it was just sensational. And the crowd... I was listening to I think it was Ian Smith. They just couldn't hear themselves think, and he said that it was probably one of the best atmospheres that he's ever been to at a game of cricket. So, as Carbs was saying, it's just starting, really starting to take hold, and that game has really set it up. As you say, it's been fantastic at the start, and really good sort of tight games and what have you, but that now has just blown it apart.
I'll tell you what, let's listen to a little bit of it, because it was something else. So Geoff Lemon was at the game. We're going to speak to him a little bit later, but this is how it finished. Okay, so just to lay the background for you, India 31 for 4, chasing 160. Virat Kohli comes in, plays the best T20 innings of his career, but they still needed 19 off the last 8 balls.
They're up on the offside. Harris Ralph trying to get out of the over. On middle stump. Virat lifts it over the right for 6 more.
My goodness.
This is greatness uninhibited from Virat Kohli. This has been an absurd game of cricket.
What a spectacle.
13 needed off 3. Virat's got to hit a couple out the park. Nawaz, full toss. Virat's got it. Over deep backward square. 6. Virat Kohli awaits. He's bowled off a free hit. They're going to run off the ricochet. Pakistan had no idea. The ball spits down to third man. It's picked up by Shaheen Shah Afridi, and they come back and run 3 off the free hit. What a game of cricket. 2 needed off the last ball. Ashwin whacking away. Virat watching on. Nawaz on his way in. Bowls a wide down the left side. He's bowled a wide. India can't lose. inside Nawaz. India need one off one. Ashwin hits it over mid-off for the win. Volcanic joy for India. Devastation for Pakistan. India win by 4 wickets off the last ball.
That is a great line, volcanic joy.
I've never known what volcanic joy is.
Yeah, that's true. Traditionally, when it happens, it's not a source of joy.
Amazing stuff. Just quickly on that, a little sort of caveat to that was just that Ashwin letting the wide go. Beforehand, who was it? I can't. The keeper, I forget his name. He's gone for the big hack and got tangled up down the leg side. He's just nipped inside the line there, Ashwin, and then he's let it go for wide. I mean, that was
gutsy
just
as well. It was pretty gutsy batting, really, in the heat of the moment as well. But also to throw another one in the mix was, how sharp is Virat Kohli's mind to take that run after it's hit the stumps, and Pakistan get to it. I mean, that's just show you, not just the shots that he played in the innings that were phenomenal, but it's just his mind in a run chase. I've never seen anyone better in a run chase. The calm he shows and presence of mind, the thinking, the clarity, it was amazing.
Because you get ticking in those situations, and he would have been ticking. That crowd were absolutely carrying them along all the way, and then at the end, punching the floor, all the team out. You don't see too many Indian sides doing that in the first game of a World Cup, you know what I mean? So it just goes to show what it meant to him. Had a couple of years of sort of, emotional times about the game, perhaps, and to come back and do it in that style in front of a full house was just something sensational.
We're going to talk about that in detail a little bit later, but I think we felt like we just had to hear it at the top of the show, that wave of noise. Just like that's got the World Cup going, it's got 5 Live Cricket going tonight as well. So we've had some good shocks, we've had some brilliant atmospheres, and we've had some terrific stories, and Ireland are one of those stories. Now, today's been a tough day for them, losing by 9 wickets, first game of the Super 12s, but they have made it this far for only the second time, thanks to a brilliant victory over West Indies. So joining us now, we've got Andrew White, who's the chairman of selectors, also played over 230 times for Ireland, and Niall O'Brien, the former Ireland wicketkeeper. Good evening, chaps.
Good evening. Evening all.
Evening. Whitey's the boss. Yeah, Whitey's the boss now. Is he chairman of selectors? He was once my roommate. Now he's the boss man.
And what good times they were.
I don't buy that for a second, Nobby.
Carl, he was my room. He was my roommate as well, 2004.
Yeah.
This is like a reunion.
I'm telling you, mate. Hey?
Good to see you.
You're listening to Roommates, a new podcast from BBC Sounds.
There you go.
Phil Tufnell is with us. Listen, Niall, tell us. You've all been part of some great Ireland stories before, and we'll talk about it. We'll look back on 2009. But how do you feel just watching this at the minute?
Listen, I don't see it as... I
feel like we've just lost Niall. We've just lost him in his prime, but that's all right. We'll get him back. Andrew, you can come in on that instead.
Yeah, I think what Niall was about to say there, if I'm not mistaken, was that he doesn't really see it as a shock, and I'm with him. I think, first and foremost, these groups are very difficult to get out of, generally speaking. When you look at the quality of the teams, Scotland a very experienced side at this stage in their period. A lot of players with county experience. West Indies, obviously 2 times champions. And Zimbabwe as well. Now, we obviously lost the first game to Zimbabwe, which put us probably wasn't the ideal start, put us in the back foot a wee bit, but how the boys responded has been magnificent. And you say 2009, actually, yeah, we came through the group, Niall and Kevin very much to the fore in beating Bangladesh to get through that group. In 2010, which is the T20 World Cup that England won, and we were in a group with England in Guyana and had maybe not bowled England out, but restricted them to 120. And the rain came, and had we chased the 120 that night, we would have gone through and England would have gone home. So it just shows you how difficult these groups can be. But absolutely delighted for the guys to come through it, and another 4 games to look forward to.
Niall, is it harder playing or harder watching?
He's back.
Oh, we still can't quite hear from that.
Reception isn't great.
Put 50p in the meter, mate.
Have you got me? Mate, I live in the sticks. Can you hear me?
We've got you. We've got you now. Go on, Niall. Sorry.
Good.
Pay the bill, man.
Mate, all I'm going to say is I missed out on what Whitey said there, which is probably a blessing in disguise. But with us beating the West Indies, I wasn't surprised. The boys have had a good 6 months. They've played South Africa, they've played India. Okay, they've lost most of the games, but they've played some really good cricket. You know, Whitey, I don't like giving him too much credit, but him and the fellow selectors and the management, they took a few tough calls since that dark day in Sharjah last year when Namibia knocked Ireland out. They made some calls. They've made some good calls, actually, to be fair. You know, someone like the likes of Lorcan Tucker promoted to number 3. He's averaged over 40 and struck it over 140 in the last 12 games. So, they've taken a punt on a couple of people, and those youngsters have actually paid the selectors back and the coaches back in spades. So a lot of credit's got to go to the selectors, but for Ireland now, the most important thing is they get a win in the Super 12s, because last year Scotland did so well in the T20 World Cup in the UAE, in Oman. They won 3 out of 3. They went to the Super 12, the next stage, and they lost every game. So it's all well and good getting to that next stage, but you have to win some games, because that's what gives you the momentum moving forward. But I must say, these Irish boys, they're a pleasure to watch. They're good young kids. They work their socks off. They love playing for Ireland. First and foremost, they love playing for Ireland. And, I just think they've got a lot more to give. Josh Little's a good quick bowler, bowling 90 mile an hour. We saw him for Manchester. Tector's a good back. Keep an eye on Harry Tector, because he is a 22-year-old superstar in the making. And we've got some, the likes of Paul Sterling, who you all know, still knocking about and doing the business. So this Irish team is good, very good actually, and they don't care who they're playing against. That's the beauty of it. They don't fear anyone, and that's gone, from generation to generation. Ireland don't mind who they play against. Win, lose, or tie, they'll give it their best shot. They got hammered yesterday against Sri Lanka. Sri Lanka pumped them. They get on the plane this morning, they go to Melbourne. Okay, we learn from that, we move on.
Yeah, I mean that run chase, Niall, it must have been really on your edge of your seat stuff, but the boys got over the line, didn't they? Perhaps in past times they haven't sometimes in big knockout competitions.
Well, tough as, Ireland's a good chasing team. That's what annoyed me yesterday, to be brutally honest with you. When Andrew Balbirnie, I'm watching the toss live at 4:30 in the morning. Ian Bishop is doing the toss, and I've had 2 hours sleep here in Northampton. And Balbirnie says we've won the toss and we're going to bat first. And I'm shouting at my TV screen, "Why are you batting first? We're a good chasing team." But I backed us against the West Indies toughers, to be brutally honest with you. West Indies aren't the team they were, mate. West Indies have won, I think, 2 games out of 8 in T20 World Cup since they last lifted that trophy when Carlos Brathwaite hit those 4 sixes. So let's forget about the West Indies of Pollard and Gale, etc., because that era is a long, long time ago. And this West Indies team under Phil Simmons, who must be under serious pressure, who's going home to face Desi Haynes and the likes, to say, how have you been knocked out by Ireland, etc. And this is my ex-Ireland coach here, Simo. I love him to bits, but he must be under pressure, sitting in his house in Mill Hill, North London right now. Must be thinking, I'm under the cosh big time. But no, I'm delighted for Ireland, and I'm delighted for Zimbabwe. It's nice to see Zimbabwe back at the big time. Tough as you would have played a lot against Zim when they're bloody good players. Dave Houghton, Andy Grant Flower, Blicknott, people like that. Proper cricketers, and they deserve to be playing at the big stage. So it's nice to see Zim doing the business. I feel a bit for Scotland, as much as difficult as that is for me to say as a fellow Celt. I think Scotland are on the up. It's a shame they couldn't sneak through, but I'm glad Ireland are through.
It was really impressive actually about the run chase against Scotland. Obviously, we were 60 for 4 after 10 overs. Lose the game and you're out, and that would have been bitterly disappointing. But the thing that really caught my eye was the running between the wickets in that partnership. There wasn't. You think whenever you need whatever it is, 120 off 10 overs, that you're going to need to do it in boundaries and lots of them. But actually, the way they ran the ones, the twos, and the threes was outstanding, and it was a complete partnership. And I can't take my hats off well enough to those guys.
Yeah, no, it showed a lot of maturity for me. You know what I mean, as you say, because the mind's ticking, and you've got to sort of take a look at yourself and put yourself out of it a little bit, haven't you? I thought it was wonderful, and as you say, thoroughly deserved it. Absolutely deserved it in my book.
I hope you guys realise as well, Niall, that the way you're talking about it now is great because, you're almost sort of frustrated at what's happened in an Ireland defeat in the Super 12s. And I think it's a big deal not to just be celebrating it and to be saying, no, got to win a game now. Let's look at it from this way. And a lot of this goes back to you guys and making history in 2009. I feel like we need to reflect on that a little bit. And how that came about, because that has changed a lot of things. Whether or not you want to be modest about it is up to you, but it has.
Well, I'll tell you something about that 2009 World Cup. And I obviously played for Kent for 4 years with my good friend Michael Carberry there, and we had a great time. And Barry McGuigan, who is one of the most iconic Irish sports people of all time, he used to use the gym there at King's Canterbury. And, me as a young Kent player going to the gym and Barry McGuigan's, on the treadmills, like, oh my God, this is amazing. So I got to know Barry and his son Shane quite well. And when we played at Lords, we just lost to Sri Lanka. A game we actually should have won. We were chasing 132, I think. And the three M's, the Mullaritha and Mendes and Malinga, I think, did for Ireland as it did for many players. But, Barry McGuigan, contacted Taff, the room attendant at Lords, and said, "Listen, can I go speak to Nobby and the boys in the dressing room?" And Barry came up and met all the boys, and it was amazing for Barry McGuigan, who is a champion boxer, to want to speak to the Ireland cricket boys. But I remember thinking, we've really let Barry McGuigan down there because we should have beaten Sri Lanka. So that was kind of my mindset at the time. I never settled for second best. Yes, it was cool having a picture of Barry McGuigan after a game of cricket at Lords, but actually I was gutted that we hadn't got the win against Sri Lanka. So I'm always, when I speak to the Ireland boys now, and I speak to a lot of them on on pretty regular basis through whether it be my media work or my agency work, I'm always yesterday's gone. My dad was always, you're only as good as your next innings. I hear a lot of fathers to young kids, you're only as good as your last innings. I think that's absolute rubbish, because I think you're only as good as your next innings, you're only good as your next game, i.e. don't settle on the last result. So my kind of message to all the Ireland boys is there's no reason why you can't go beat an England or a New Zealand or a Sri Lanka for that matter. Why not? It's T20 cricket. All it takes is one bloke to have a great day out and you win a game of cricket and you set yourself up. That's the big thing now. Carbs has played franchise cricket. You have one good game, IPL, Big Bash, all these tournaments. You set yourself up for life.
It's an amazing story. I've known Nobby years. We virtually started our careers together, and you see that you saw any sort of emergence of Ireland, and the teams they've taken down. To me, it's no surprise either. I totally agree with him. Seeing that result, Ireland taking down the West Indies, because I think, Ireland's been a team on the up for quite a few years. I did some commentary, I think even 2 years ago when they beat England at the Rose Bowl, and again, Paul Sterling played a fantastic innings that night as well. 120 odd not out, and it was one of the best innings I've ever seen. And you probably could see that lost to last night as a small blip in the road, if you like. But I suppose in that situation, Nobby, what would you be saying to those guys now? Is it put it to one side? Is it just go back to process? Was it the toss? All those kind of things. Because I suppose it's difficult in T20. I suppose you can't always guarantee the toss. What would be sort of your words and mindset? You've seen that you played in quite a successful era for Ireland.
Well, the thing is, Carbs, these games come thick and fast. They got 5 games in 12 days. So I've never been one to cry over spilt milk. I would have just said, I actually thought they did a lot of things well that game. I think with the bat they're a little bit Harry Carey. They're a little bit too fiery up top, and almost handed Sri Lanka the game in the power play. You generally lose the power play, you lose the game. But I would have just said to the boys, listen lads, we learn from it. That Sri Lanka have actually got a bloody good team. They just won the Asia Cup. So let's, we are going to get found out a few times, but we're going to get on the plane in the morning. We're going to have a beer in the bar tonight. That was always my thing. Get to the bar. Don't go back to your room having a sulk. Sulking does nobody any favours. So get down, have a Diet Coke, have a glass of wine. Let's have a bit of dinner. 9 o'clock leave tomorrow morning for the airport. We'll regroup in Melbourne, get to the team hotel. We'll go over this match, but actually we're going to look forward. Okay, we're going to look forward to the next game because that's the most important game. And just, guys, we're here at the World Cup. We deserve to be here. Trust yourselves, because as a coach, and Hiram Milan's a good coach. He's a young coach, but he's good, and he knows what hasn't got to coach in Ireland by chance. He's had success with Otago, with Auckland in New Zealand, and he would have just said, "Listen, boys, I trust you guys." Himself, Gary Wilson, Ryan Eagleson, Nathan Horrocks, who is a spin coach now for Ireland. It was good to see Ireland have a spin coach, because they never had one before, pretty much, if I'm not corrected, Whitey. And Nathan Horrocks has been excellent. So just, guys, we trust you. You're the best 15 players we have. At the moment, this is 11, but you four on the sidelines, you better be ready, because if someone goes down, if Josh Little goes down, or McCarthy, or Harry Tector, or Sterling, Doheny, you've got to be ready to step up. So I just say, listen, boys, we trust you. We back you. Enjoy it.
Yeah. You got to create a. Sorry, Tough, go on.
Yeah, no. I mean, I love listening to you, mate. That's so Churchillian stuff, mate. It really is. And I love it. And I love the attitude and what have you. Question now, then. What are you going to be saying about how you're going to take down England? Strong-looking England side.
Yeah, listen, England are a very good team. I think England, from me, they're probably the best team, the favourites for the tournament.
Me too.
And, a couple of reasons for that. They've got Josh Butler, who's the best white ball player in the world, in my opinion. They've got Mark Woodball, 90-odd mile an hour, who could take wickets and is a proper bowler. They've lost Topley. It's a big loss, because he's been exceptional for the last 12 months. But they've got Sam Curran, who's a really good cricketer. I don't really look at the opposition. I never did. They've got these guys. I want to play on a little bit of the ego. Let's play on some of the egos that the England boys might have. Davin Milan, you're batting number 3. I would be in his ear straight away. Because I've seen him in the media last week. His England contract got downgraded. He was straight in. I knew Davin Milan was going to get man of the match that game of Camera, because he just got his contract downgraded, and I knew he was going to get out. He went out, got 80 odd not out straight away in the press conference. He was talking about how the England, the white ball cricket isn't prioritised over red ball cricket, and his contract is being cut. I'll be straight in his ear. I'll be in his ear. I'll be playing on every little nuance I can, because England, man for man, England are a better team. But there's no, you have a good night. You have a good night. You get in, you have a good... And actually, England don't have Owen Morgan. So every time Ireland played England and we had England in trouble, Owen Morgan walked out and got 50. That game Whitey talks about in Guyana. England were no price. And Morgan got a scrappy 50-odd not out off 45 balls, and put England in the position. The rain saved England. England went on to win the World Cup. In another day,
I think the important thing is that you're over it, I think.
12 years. I just hit Ryan Feinbaum for 2 fours. I was going to get 18 on out. IPL. I want to be in IPL.
Can I just say, Andrew, that I'm starting to get a feel for what rooming with Niall O'Brien must be like.
Well, I was just about to say, I hope you guys can now understand what it was like to play with Niall O'Brien. There was never a dull moment, and you know what? It was characters like Niall that drove us, amongst others, that drove us on to the great moments we had. And I think the big thing, as the Irish boys bounced into the MCG on Wednesday to take on England, the biggest thing for me in all of this is that our great successes in 2007, 2009, 2011, 2015 were littered with Porterfield, O'Brien, Joyce, Rankin, Dockrell, Wilson, all guys with lots of county experience, experienced campaigners who had done it time and time for Ireland, at home, at overseas. But for these guys, getting through that group and the manner they get through the group will stand them in such great stead. It's such a massive moment for this group of players. And I just hope that over the next 4 games, starting on Wednesday, that they stick those chests out and they go out and they perform like Niall has described, because there is some ridiculous talent amongst that group of players. Let's not forget that Ireland is, we don't have a massive pool of players across the island of Ireland. And the talent that these guys can show is frightening for such a group.
Phil.
So in terms of a result on Wednesday, if you're looking for a result, to give me a result, I'll, as Niall said, it takes one day out for one of the Irish players to put his name in lights, and anything is possible. So the Irish boys will believe, that's for sure.
Yeah, are we really looking out to do that? Give us a little rundown of your main men who can really go out there and make a difference. We've heard about Sterling. We know these guys.
Well, I think we all know the importance of the top three in T20 cricket, and with Sterling, Balbirnie and Lorcan Tucker there, if they can get us off to a good start, then it does set a platform. George Dockrell for me has been, for the likes of Michael there, who'll have seen him in county cricket. He started off his Irish career as a left-arm spinner, played quite a bit down at Somerset.
Very talented.
But for one reason or another, his bowling didn't progress maybe the way he had wanted, but he has transformed his career into a middle order batter who hits the ball really, really, really well down the ground, scores in good areas, and he has the experience now to see it either set up a victory or to chase like he did the other day. Niall's obviously mentioned Josh Little, and again, to have a left armer in your ranks who's bowling at 90 miles an hour makes a huge difference and gives the rest of the guys belief. It's going to have to be a team effort. But if you said, if you're talking about one man on the day, it's hard to look past a Paul Stirling or a Josh Little.
Yeah.
Niall, can we relive 2011 a little bit now? I think we have to.
You got the wrong brother.
Just take it and run, Niall.
The amount of times people say, "Oh, great 100 at Bangalore."
Did I say that, or did I just say, can we relive 2011?
Take it. Kev won't know, mate. Kev won't know. Take it.
I'll be a millionaire, man. I'll be a millionaire.
I wasn't about to give you a century that you never got. I just figured we should relive it, because what a great day it was for Ireland. What was 328, wasn't it, to win? William Porterfield opens and gets out first ball, and then what?
That was his sixth first ball duck in that year.
Yep.
Sixth first ball. He got 6 first ball ducks of an innings that year. 6. How can you go out as an opener batter and get out 6 times first ball of a match or an innings?
Well,
Can you help us out with that?
I'll tell you something about that. I'll tell you something about that game. Right? That was a flat track. Flat Bangalore, and the ball travels. And one thing I'll say about we call Phil Simmons Uncle Phil. Phil Simmons said at the mid-innings break, and Whitey will, I'm sure, back me up. He said, "Boys, we're here to chase this down." And we were still an associate team then. Most associate teams would have been happy get 260 for 8. You know what I mean? A commendable loss. Phil Simmons said, "Let me make this very clear to you, gentlemen. We're going to chase this down, or we're going to lose attempting to chase it down." So we're like, license, happy days, man. Shots aplenty. Sterling cracked a few over. Licks, man. Sterling got 30 and then caught deep square. Porterfield out first ball. Joycey ran past one stump. I had a big hack. Bold Swan. I remember Bumble Lloyd's, David Lloyd's commentary. "Oh, filthy O'Brien, filthy shot." And we're about 110 for 5. And I was sitting in the sheds with Joyce. He was you'll know Joyce very well spoken, very calm individual. Me, not so. And I was saying this and that, and he was kind of muttering this and that. And next thing, I think one of Nigel Jones, who was 12th or 13th man, came out and said, "No, but you got to come outside. Kev's on 49. I said, "It can't be. He's only been out there 15 minutes. He said he is. So then we ran outside, and all of a sudden Kev was on 50. Then he was on 60. And then our good friend KP obviously was injured with the sore ankle. And we, at Bangalore, you share a viewing area. I don't know if you know that. So England were right beside us with Andy Flower and Gilo and KP with his ankle in ice. And there's me, and cheering on my little brother as he's absolutely tonking England to all parts. And KP is on the sideline going, "Move the fielder here, move the fielder, bowl this." And I said to him, "If you know so much, why don't you go out and bloody field, mate?" And then there was nearly a scrap in the viewing area. And then obviously Kev chased it. Kev got his 100, and John Mooney obviously clipped it off his legs, and it was a great night. It was a great night.
Can I ask a question, Nob? Can I ask a question? Yeah. Were you the barber?
Was that?
Were you the team barber? Did you do Kev's hair?
No, that was a charity thing we did. Yeah. That
when he pulled the helmet off, I was like,
yeah, he was on a sponsored dye, some kind of dye. No, it was a cracking win. It really was. It was great. It was a great night.
The worst thing for me, Nobby, was whenever I was 12th man for the game, and your brother Kevy had actually got at this stage where we only needed to knock it around and see it home. And I ran out with a drink and gloves for Kevin. I said, Kevin, you're doing great here, but just consider knocking it around. 1s and 2s will do. And he told me to go away in no uncertain terms. He was going to continue to hit the ball into the far end of Bangalore, and quite right he was too.
Hold on a second. You got 150 balls. You got the 12th man and I tell you knock it around. I do want.
But you know it's worse watching than it is out there. And what a job! What an incredible performance! He
ran himself out, the silly sod. 113. He ran himself out. Ran out of puff. The big fella ran out of puff, didn't he?
Oh my goodness. Niall, Andrew, it's been absolutely brilliant having you both on.
Yeah.
Great crack. Really appreciate it. I'm sure we'll talk to you again soon.
Pleasure. Here, I'll talk to you Thursday. I'll talk to you Thursday after we beat you.
Michael, did you get any sleep rooming with him? Mate, do you know that part of the conversation?
Don't comment, because I know. We know.
What goes on tour stays on tour.
What happens on tour stays on tour.
Absolutely.
Okay, Niall O'Brien. I'm going to say Ireland legend. Andrew White, over 230 appearances and the chairman of selectors right now as well. That was brilliant. With us live on 5 Live Cricket. Let's check back in on the football at the London Stadium. Mark Scott.
Not too much to talk about in terms of action on the pitch, but Bournemouth have had a couple of blows in terms of personnel. Dominic Solanke forced off just before half-time with Kiefer Moore replacing him, and they had to make a change at the other end of the pitch as well. Neto's place in goal taken by Mark Travers, who hasn't actually played since that 9-0 loss at Liverpool. He's beaten away a hit from long range by Declan Rice. That's about the best we've had in terms of action, and we also heard that Bournemouth interim boss Gary O'Neill was booked at half-time for his rant at referee David Coote about the goal that still separates the sides. Just 15 minutes to go. West Ham 1, Bournemouth 0.
That was great, Phil, wasn't it?
Well, and that sums up the whole sort of character and attitude of that Irish side. I mean, I think that they've got a little bit more mature about the way they go about things nowadays, but you just can't write them off. They fancy every game. Okay, sometimes things aren't going to come off, as Niall was saying, but now they've got 3, maybe 4, sort of getting up to world-class players. Well, Paul Sterling, for a start off, he can win you a game on his own, and so you have that belief, and you think, come on, boys, listen, if we all pull together, who knows what can happen. They're more than a banana skin nowadays, I think, Ireland, when you play them at T20 cricket, don't you reckon, Carbs?
Yeah, for sure. As I said, the emergence of Ireland as I said, really since 2007 has just been, amazing. And, I think a lot of them back in those days, the early days, to say early mid-2000s, I mean, I think a lot of the guys were helped by playing a lot of county cricket, the likes of Ed Joyce, Boyd Rankin, Niall O'Brien himself. I think they were really helped playing against the county, playing in the county system. And a lot of them took that experience forward. And what I've always liked about the Irish and the way that they've gone about things is, like I talked about, was that fearlessness. It didn't seem to matter who they came up against. No. They and Kevin O'Brien, that knock, I remember it vividly. He just took the bit between his teeth and really put England to the sword from a position really they had no right to win. So it just shows you what Ireland are capable of. But I suppose, in these tournaments, results like the other day, it will happen from time to time. But certainly now, I think when you come up against Ireland, and I would, strongly suggest to England that, not to take these guys lightly, because, they will be smarting from this defeat, and they will want to put it right, and they certainly do have the capabilities to put it right and have good history against England as well.
Right, let's talk about England's strengths. And I want to have a discussion with both of you about the art of fielding. And I'm not saying Michael should have more in this conversation than you, Phil.
Go on, Tuffers.
We'll just see what happens. We'll just see what happens.
It's amazing what you can do with your eyes closed, mate. I tell you. They looked good, didn't they? They looked good the other day. And it's a sort of a barometer, I've always sort of found, where you are as a side as well, confidence-wise, and sort of like, how you're feeling about where you are in the game. If you're a bit nervous or you're a bit out of form, that's where a few little sort of mistakes can happen. England. So I was delighted to see the way England performed in the field, and I think that makes them just sort of even stronger and even more of a favourite for this side. It shows that they're right on it for me.
Let me read you this quote, Michael, from Mark Wood. He said, "There is a bit of a buzz about England's fielding. We are hunting as a pack to get the next wicket." I love that as a line because it paints a picture of a real proper intensity every second that they're in the field.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's a phrase I use with, kids that I coach at grassroots level now is, fielding is a sign of attitude. And, I think you always get a gauge, as a batsman, you always get a gauge when a team is on top, when just looking how switched on people are in the field, how accurate the throwing is, the movement, all those things. I watched England the other day, and similar to how they are with the bat. It's that real intent. You get a sense that everyone in the field is expecting the ball, wanting that ball to come. Some of the catching was phenomenal. I think Liam Livingstone really kicked things off on with that running catch on the boundary. I thought halfway there, I didn't think he was going to get there, and then it was just full length dive. That was just, stuff of dreams. But in the field now, if you're not a competent fielder,
you can't be a weak link. Yeah,
you can't be a weak link. That's what short for since my time. The fielding, the level, it's the stuff that you're expected to do now. You see your 6'5" fast bowler, palming balls back into play. Someone taking the parry, it's phenomenal. The athleticism, the speed over the ground, all these things. But yeah, Mark was right. It very much starts with the mind, the mindset. You've got to want that ball to come to you and want to make something happen in the game.
Yeah. Yeah, it always used to happen to us. The likes of South Africa always had that in the past. Australia always had that in the past. The likes of Border, Ponting at that mid-wicket and sort of cover and backward point region. And now England just seem to have it everywhere. And it's the one thing that you were always told, that it doesn't matter how you bowl, it doesn't matter how you bat, because you're going to have iffy days, but you can always sort of field. Always feel like you want the ball. And you're right, I love that saying, we're going to hit hunt impacts, because it's worth a wicket or two to you every game, virtually. Someone pulls off a great catch, someone hitting the run. We never used to hit the stumps, Carb. We threw at them all the time.
We? Is that the royal we?
Yeah, but did you practice? Did you practice, Cap?
Well, not particularly. But, we had some very, very good fielders, but, the amount that the guys now hit the stumps, and I've been watching it as well, and it's just, everyone now, as soon as they get the ball, bang, they are bullseye at the moment, and England are just keeping up with that trend. And if anything, not surpassing it.
Yeah, I'm only just out of the game, and I know the volume of practice now has gone through the roof. It's exponential. My short time in the England team with Andy Flower, again, he was someone very, very big on fielding. Had likes of sort of Paul Collingwood, who was absolute superstar in that backward point region, same region I used to field as well. So we've always produced some good fielders, but I think now the volume of practice, and remember, a lot of these guys now, our England guys, are playing franchise cricket around the world, so they're again working with specialists, different coaches who will offer different advice. The likes of Jonty Rose now are travelling fielding coaches, and think that's a new thing that's come in the game as well. Having a specialised fielding coach, all those things. So and these fielding coaches now spending time with baseball and various different sports to help you with your throwing technique, your diving techniques, your hitting the stumps, all those things. So
this is really interesting, Michael. So do we think that maybe this is something that England have, over whatever period of time, kind of woken up to? Because we're talking here about great teams who have been really good at it for a lot longer than England. So at what point do you think England kind of woke up to the fact that we cannot be this team who might have one player who you think, he's going to do this really well. I don't want to pick anybody out, but it's sort of the Monty Panesar. That was what it was, isn't it? You would think, well, he's got to be in the team because what he does with the ball is amazing, and we'll just forget that in the field it's not going to be for him.
I sort of think, really, when Owen Morgan took over full time as the one day captain and really redefined and redesigned how he wanted his England team to play. So first of all, it started with how we approach with the bat. He wanted this uber aggressive approach, and I think with that it bled into that aggressive mindset in the field as well. And I think by nature, I think as a country going back years ago, I don't think youngsters practiced fielding enough. I know certainly in my first trips to Australia as a young pro playing club cricket, I mean, it was a given. You had to spend an hour, and it literally was an hour of fielding. Time I spent with the Scorchers, someone like Justin Langer, again, was very, very big on fielding. Used to do hours upon hours of fielding, catching, just doing basic stuff. And really, from sort of 2015 onwards, when Morgs, we certainly were dumped out of the World Cup, you saw a change in the sort of athleticism, the catching, the diving, as well as the uber positive approach. So now you would say it's a given. You coming in the England squad now, you as I say, young Harry Brook and guys that have come in and done well also. If you're not a good fielder and you haven't got that speed across the ground, I mean, your place is under pressure if you're not getting runs and wickets.
Yeah, you're not in. It's as simple as that. Because if there's a fella there who can bat and bowl, and you're a fella who's after that space, and you can bat and bowl, but you might not be quite as good or what have you. If you can get that string to your bow, you're in the side. It's as simple as that. And the batting and the bowling can sort of look after itself a bit. You can have your luck and you can have your off day and your good day, but the fielding is always there. So the guys know it now. The guys work very, very hard, as Scarps was saying, with the specialist fielding coaches.
Yeah, and just to jump in there on what Tuffers is saying, I think it's one of those areas of the game that I think you can make yourself into a good fielder. I mean, bowling, as we know, especially in this format, I mean, someone gets hold of you, that's just part and parcel of the game. You could get a good one up front as a batsman, but certainly fielding is something you can go off and practice with a mate, a dad, an older brother, a big sister, whatever. Turn yourself into a good catcher, a good thrower. I mean, that's just practice. That's just getting out there and doing it.
Yeah, and listen, we are hearing there from one of the absolute greats in that part of the game. I remember my first job in journalism was covering Yorkshire County Cricket Club, and basically any time you were out caught Carberry, you were like, why has someone hit the ball even in Michael Carberry's orbit? Because he's going to take it. You just knew he was going to take it.
I thought you were talking about me then when you were saying thanks very much. One of the greats in the game.
No, Phil. No, just not one of the great fielders. That's all.
No,
all.
If only I had specialised coaching in that.
There you go. You would have been fine.
We didn't have the tools.
That's what it is. Delighted to say that we can now go live to the World Cup, for want of a better phrase, because that's where Test Match Specials Geoff Lemon is. Geoff, good evening.
Good evening to you.
Good morning. What time are we at?
About 7:45 in the morning in Australia.
Morning, Geoff.
Where do we find you, Geoff?
In Melbourne, just recovering from India-Pakistan and the spectacle of that at the MCG, watching my home ground absolutely boil over on Sunday night, and from then on.
Yeah, well, listen, let's talk about that now then, because we want to obviously get you on Australia a bit, but let's sort of get you up before we get you down. What was it like to be there? Right at the top of the show, Geoff, we heard just some of the noise, but to actually experience it must have been incredible.
Yeah, Phil Spector style, it was extraordinary. You're used to cricket crowds at the MCG being a little bit more reserved, applaud the boundary, cheer for the wicket kind of thing, not necessarily going off for every dot ball, every single, every case. And it was just very different. The MCG is so big that in terms of capacity that we're not used to it being completely packed to the rafters.
I think Geoff, we're going to try and get you back on a better line, just because you're cutting out ever so slightly. But just while we're getting Geoff back, Phil, I mean, No, go on.
Sorry, yeah, I was just saying it reminded me a little bit of the '92 World Cup when I was over there with the side. 12th man got left out. Oh, I should have played, but against Pakistan, and it just lit up there. I mean, it does have that capacity that when, as you say, not only the capacity of the amount of people in there, but when something takes hold, you know what I mean? You know, and I think going back to Wasim Akram, because there was a lot of Pakistani fans in there, and Wasim bowled that spell, and you thought that the whole sort of like momentum was just with the Pakistan side, and we were always fighting to try and sort of to stave it off, so to speak. But an amazing place when it gets rocking, and wow, was it rocking the other night? Yeah, and I don't know whether there's a better stadium when it's like that.
I wonder as well, Michael, you know, we've just been talking about the art of fielding and how everything has changed on that front. We should talk about physical fitness as well, because I was reading Anil Kumble and Stephen Fleming talking about Virat Kohli and his unbeaten 82. And what they were saying is there were two standout characteristics to it. One, ability to find the boundaries at will, and two, high levels of fitness when you're playing a ground like the MCG, a ground of that size.
Yeah, 100%. Virat Kohli, I mean, he's really redefined Indian cricket. I mean, India have always produced some outstanding cricketers over their time. I mean, the names are endless. Sachin Tendulkar, obviously, Rahul Dravid. But what I think Kohli's done for the new generation Indians, if you look at the shape of these guys now, they are strong guys. I remember captaining Varun Aaron for a few games, and I shook hands with him. I'm not a small guy myself, and shook hands with him for the first time. It was like shaking hands with granite. Solid guy. He'd be in the gym lifting weights, very much like Kohli. And Kohli's really set this culture of fitness. And again, same thing me and Tuffers were saying about, you know, if you're not a good athlete, a good fielder, he's created that culture within Indian cricket. And I think largely that's what's led to them, you know, starting to win more test matches away from home. Bowlers now bowling, you know, lots of Bumrah and Yadav and all these guys in test cricket and one day cricket bowling over 150 and sustaining pace, the athleticism, someone like Jadeja, who's been around for years, but still, you know, plucking balls at backward point and things like that. So I think Kohli's had a wonderful influence on the game in India. You know, his sheer love and passion for the game. I mean, that innings last night, I mean, I sat and watched it, and I said to myself, you know, unfortunately I never had the pleasure of playing against Virat Kohli, but I've always been a huge admirer of the way he goes about his cricket, and great to see him back in full form. But just the acumen he showed, as you know, I always say this to young kids, there's a difference between being a hitter and a batsman, and it shows that, and I always believe batsmanship always overrides just being a hitter, and that was a situation that requires batsmanship. You know, 40 for 4 to navigate. You know, it's for me by the end of that run chase, and I've seen Virat Kohli do it so often now that I know it's not a fluke. To just have that clear thinking, and how he manages to calculate when to go, when to bed in. He almost coached Pandya through it, you know, because there was a point there where I thought Pandya might just throw it away at any point. You know, you could see he was getting a little bit itchy fingers. He wanted that big shot, but you could see Kohli was coming down, talking to him, looked very calm. And then suddenly, spinner came on, 2 sixes, boom, he was away.
Hi, Jeff.
Well, I hope you do after last time. Let's see if this works any better.
Thing is, I expected your line to mysteriously go bad when we got onto Australia, but it started with India. I know Phil's got a point he wants to make, but go on.
Yeah, I just want to very, very quickly say unlucky Pakistan here as well. I mean, everyone's saying how great India was. I'm actually saying Pakistan played really well in that game as well. So you know, it's just going to show that this really is going to be an open World Cup for me.
Go on, Jeff. We were ready and waiting for you to paint the picture of the experience of being there.
Yeah, well, I think Phil's quite right. 48 off the last 3 overs. You'd expect a team to be able to defend that most times. But yeah, just the level of noise, I think that's what will stay with me. We're used to cricket crowds being not not necessarily filling up the MCG. They might be half full, they might be 60,000. They're still massive crowds, but to actually get 90+ thousand in, we had 86,000 for the Women's World Cup final a couple of years ago, and 90+ thousand for this game today for a neutral match, a match not involving the home team. So, yeah, the level of noise is something that I won't forget for a long, long time.
I don't know what the big paper in Melbourne is. I only know the Sydney Morning Herald, but whatever it is, if you were to pick it up this morning, Jeff, in your cafe, what would they be saying about Australia? First defeat in Australia to New Zealand since 2011.
Look, I'm not sure how worked up people get about T20 cricket yet in Australia. I think there's still a generational thing where that's the format that people are least worried about. But nobody likes losing to New Zealand. So as soon as that happens, people suddenly get a lot more invested. Finn Allen is pretty exciting. If you've been paying attention to domestic short-form cricket over the last couple of years, you'd know that he's one of the fastest scorers in the world. And he just took on the Australians, didn't care. Cummins, Stark, Hazelwood, the blue chip attack, the test match attack, all the rest of it, didn't matter. He whacked every one of them out of the ground, but lasted about 4 overs, and he pretty much decided the match by then.
Was your read on that game then, Michael, wow, look at New Zealand, or goodness me, Australia have got problems?
Not really. I mean, I think looking at the scorebook, I mean, someone gets 42 of 16 balls. I mean, you're gonna strike. That's literally, you've broken the back of any hopes a team have, and follow. Let's mention Dean Conway's innings as well. And partnerships hurt you in T20 cricket. There's nothing worse than trying to stop two guys that are going well. I don't care who you've got in your ranks. If you can't get wickets, you're in for a long night. And I think they were just simply outplayed by a New Zealand team set up by those two at the top. And
also as well, New Zealand always turn up, don't they? They always turn up. They're a side that are very well drilled. They've all
but historically not in Australia, Phil.
Well, they got to the final though, didn't they?
Yeah, sure, but when they play Australia.
Oh, well, yes, no, that's right. But I mean, it's a bit like that Ireland. They love that sort of underdog tag. They love going there. They love trying to create an upset, and that is a very nice place to be, And so I think Aussie will get better and better, but you can never write off New Zealand. They'll always be there or thereabouts.
Not worried then, Jeff?
Well, I think this form of cricket, it lends itself to unexpected results, and it lends itself to the kind of result where one burst by one player can be the thing that tilts a match in one direction or another. So, look, I'm not a parochial supporter. I don't really care who makes it into finals as long as they're good to watch. But New Zealand was great to watch the other night.
Well put, Jeff. Well put, mate.
Yeah. If Finn Allen can keep doing it, I'm happy to keep watching him do it. And, New Zealand probably owe Australia one after the 2015 final and Brendan McCullum getting bowled for third ball of the match. And they're probably due a bit of silverware.
Jeff sounds like every England football fan up to 2018 talking about major tournaments. To be honest, I don't really care anymore. I'm just here to watch the other teams.
Yeah. And Brendan McCullum famously said, didn't he, about that match at the MCG in the final, didn't he? I forgot to watch the ball. He said, I've been watching it all series.
Jeff, thank you very much for joining us. Appreciate that. And
Cheers,
we're
mate.
all very jealous of you, I'm sure.
No problem at all. I'll try to enjoy it for you.
Man, yeah, I'm sure you will. That's Jeff Lemon.
I bet he's gutted. He was gutted.
He's just come out of hiding, I reckon. That's why.
There was nothing wrong with that phone line at all. He was like, 15 minutes of this, 5 max. Absolute max. What a great week then we've got, Phil. Ireland, England, Australia. Brilliant.
Absolutely doesn't get any better than that, doesn't it? I mean, we're all sort of like waiting for it to really catch fire, this tournament, and that's just going to be brilliant. I fancy England to do really well in this competition. Bats so deep, such good pitches coming on. Nice bounce for our really, really strong batting lineup, and also, we look to be finishing off games with the ball now, which was our little worry. So fielding's going great. I think we're going to have a great couple of days.